Yep. Cup of tea.
Cup of tea. Nice cup of tea. Right, talk me through it.
It's horrendous.
Anything in particular that...
I feel that I'm now at the point where when I get back here, all I'm trying to do is get back to the ball as fast as I can. And it's just I can feel like I'm almost doing that. And it's, I mean, I've played with a couple of boys maybe 3 weeks in a row.
Okay.
And one of the boys used to have the same problem. Said he feels it's like that. It's just dob or off in it. It's so inconsistent.
Yeah.
I'm just scared to get off the ball.
So the more lofty club you're going to veer away from, aren't you?
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm just scared to use it.
Right. Just go straight to it then.
Tried everything, eh?
What's that?
Tried everything. Or I felt as though I've tried everything.
You can see. So let's think about when you were chipping good.
Divots were like that. There wasn't anything there.
Right.
Almost using the bounce a little bit.
Okay.
Skimming it off the ground very shallow.
Right.
I'm at the point where I'd get to there and I'm almost able to do that
Just
to some extent.
lose that committal to
Yeah,
what you
just-
felt was in the practice swing.
Yeah, just completely behind the ball.
Right.
And I mean, the second at Lundy I hit driver just to the front edge of the green. It was downwind. I only had like a that tiny chip. I sent it 20 foot past. Because I was trying so hard not to fat it.
Yeah.
And I was lucky to be flat. Because I had to chip that. It was just as bad. But
Yeah.
I mean, I'd take any of those. Even though
Well,
it's just because the connection's good. But it's from here to there, you want to be
tight.
tight.
You need to be tight. You would expect it to be pretty tight.
Yeah.
But it could be very easily then, you know, see when you think about when you're, the reason why, right, when you were chipping well, how was the attitude? What was the, were you thinking much about the club? Were you thinking
I was more
more
thinking about the landing spot.
Okay, so you kind of knew that your
I knew that I was
ability,
going to
your
hit the
technique
ball.
was sound. And then as soon as that goes, you're then
Trying to think, what did I do?
yeah, and then you're thinking about the club and what you're trying to make the club do, and you're then losing focus of the shot, aren't you? Carry on. Go up to the flag on the right, Fraser. Right, so you're using 58. You would expect that to maybe pop up a little bit higher.
You would. Yeah.
Okay? So let's make that happen.
Okay.
So So what's your process then?
Probably still keep my weight left,
Okay,
but then we reduce handle push
just the
forward,
amount. Okay, right.
just make it more neutral.
Okay, right.
And instead of forcing through that, maybe just let it release a little bit.
Right. Okay. How was that?
Felt good.
Right.
It's
Okay.
maybe would have been able to do it every time.
It's always $1 million question,
That's
isn't it?
it.
So then, what stops you from doing it every time?
Commitment. Just not sure. Maybe because I think if I'm there, I maybe feel that I can make contact with the ball maybe more consistently. I don't know. Like for me, being back in this position maybe scares me a little bit. I don't know.
The club side of it, though, the more you put, it's great if it's sitting like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
But the more you have of this, the more you're taking the bounce right off. That possibly you end up not having negative bounce, but the leading edge is just good. If you're not struck it pure, it's going to dig in.
Yeah.
So having a little amount of the handle forward, still having a couple of degrees of bounce on it, is the club's always then going to move, and if it does bounce a fraction, then great, because that club head is still moving, and actually you're not then getting stuck at impact. You're then able to keep moving going through. And there's no question that actually those two shots you hit, particularly the second one, was good. But I think that to the eye, the more you've had of this, and if you stand opposite, the more lean that you've had, the more actually you're almost too much covering it. Yeah, just to almost reassure yourself that actually you're going to hit it. Make sure you get the ball first, because it's not been happening. It's either fats or thins. But actually, you can make, just as long as this part of the club keeps moving through, you'll still get your connection, your strike, and even if it does release up a little bit, then that club is still making contact, front half of the stance. So we still should have good movement and good strike. Just because you haven't got the handle as much forward doesn't mean that you're then going to hit the ground before the ball. You can still make a movement that travels through, and even just the practice swings. Personally, I don't think really you would have a divot in your practice swing. It's only when the club connects with the ball through the loft of the club that the ball pushes the club down to make the divot. So when you're using your practice swing, let it skim over the surface. Yeah, and of course, you not to keep going about confidence and things like that. Confidence comes from actually still having the belief that you can hit the shot. Where it can go wrong is then, what's my practice routine? And if my practice routine, I have it, I feel good. Then it comes to the shot, what changes? And you start to then think, right, okay, I've got to make the ball do something. But if you perform to the exact same as a practice swing, what can go wrong? And why is it always that the practice swing is better? Because the ball's not there. And it's easy to say, right, okay, look, we're going to set up to the ball, that ball's not there. However, as long as we feel we can actually perform the same as the practice swing, rhythm, pressure, everything like that, and you set up to the shot and like, right, okay, that felt pretty good, so the same. Oh, would you? Oh. But even at that grazing of the ground was really just because of the connection with the ball. But all I really felt I did was to try and do, and it's not just physical, it's mental as well. But however, getting back to the technical side of it, I do think you've kind of over exaggerated from here, and then you're really trying to dig it out. Ball's coming out really, I think, just too low. That actually it probably puts a bit of fear in you to think, right, actually I'm going to go put the handle back again. As long as we keep the handle moving through, I think we could reduce the amount that you've actually got here, so that way the club doesn't get stuck at all. And essentially, even again, you know, that divot is just from ball connection. You know, it doesn't change. We don't change, you know, reconfigure angles and things. It's different to the practice swing. As long as we've kind of got that little bit of movement going through here, but without let's really go for this and squeezing too much out of it. Alright, that was the first couple of chips I've had this year. Quite happy with it.
What would you then do? What would you suggest then if we were in thick stuff or wet, rough?
Probably going back to actually what you were doing in the beginning.
Okay. Because obviously it's that time of year, isn't it? So.
Well, you've got two options, I think. You've got, number one, you know, ball back, you move the handle forward, try and miss out a lot of that wet grass, because it is just going to get wrapped up around the holes and do nothing to it. Or two, you play it like a flop shot and actually really just open up the face of the club.
Okay.
So you've got speed, you're committed to speed.
Yeah.
Right, so we're a bit more neutral. Okay, pressure, hands pressure.
Quite soft, I think.
Out of 10.
I'd probably give it a 6.
Okay, let's half that.
2.
Right, okay, well, let's keep that.
Sort of softer, more fluid.
But the club kept moving, didn't it?
Yeah.
You know, it didn't look like it ever got stuck.
That's alright, because although it's coming out low, its contact was good,
Yeah.
was good, and it was.
And I also think that even just from the angle that the club is moving, even go back to your setup. So even making it move up too much in here is then going to make it come down just that little bit steep as well.
Yeah.
So we're almost shallowing out the angle that the club is moving as well. But that, I think that, you know, comes from doing less of that. The more you do of that, the steeper it's then going to come up and pick. Whereas if you're a bit more neutral, you can actually then almost work it like a putt.
Body of it.
Yeah. Great. Spin control on it as well.
It's just easier to choose where you want to land it. There's no landing it short, landing it long. It's quite consistent in that respect.
Okay. That's pretty good there. I mean, even just looking at the... Right, let go of the club, stand opposite and have a look at how much lean the shaft has.
Yeah.
Enough, isn't it?
Yeah.
Enough. A little enough there, but... Great. Right, good. I still think you could make that a little bit shallower on the way back.
Right.
Picked it up off the ground just a little bit too sharply, yeah. Right. It's too... Well, you went into it feeling that you're trying to do something different.
Yeah.
You did rehearse it. Yeah. You've got to feel it first so that actually you can then perform it. it's just a little bit wider.
Okay.
Okay. Right, you're almost
felt
you're
Yeah.
getting there. So what would you relate that shot to the previous couple of shots then? Anything different?
The other ones did feel as though I was sort of there.
Yeah.
Just sort of going up and down.
Yeah.
That one there I just felt it was more.
A little bit more rounded, a little bit,
rounded,
but it's not what
not
you
round,
think it is.
Yeah.
I tell you what I saw was different. I don't know if you can relate to that, but going back to the earlier shots where it's picked up and it's almost kind of over
Yeah.
to come down steeper. That didn't happen in that shot. Actually, the club kind of fell
Okay. Yeah.
down
Yeah.
into it. You had maybe a more sensation of time going into the ball, and if you're halving that time,
Yeah.
like earlier shots, then you could pretty much guarantee that it's working too hard and forceful. Whereas there it had flow,
Yeah,
there's
had time,
obviously
yeah.
still movement, and that's obviously going to work wonders with the mental side of it. Right, great.
I felt good.
I'm not bothered about the target. The target will come. But the action of that was
Felt good. Yeah.
really good.
I feel though as though I can commit to it a bit more as well.
Okay.
Maybe why the ball's travelling so far. Not getting to there and going like that. Getting to there.
Do you feel you're hitting it harder or softer?
I'm probably hitting it harder, but not hitting it. More just the swings, just
More-
feels
more
faster.
Momentum in it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and still just put a little bit more into the rehearsal side of it. Do you feel your hands staying the same amount of pressure? Or do they squeeze? Do they contract a bit?
Feels as though it's the same.
See, even when you look at the practice swing, I still think that see where your setup is to there.
Uh-huh.
What's the difference of
Well,
getting
yeah.
the divot to here? What's the difference?
If I'm setting up there and hitting it there, I'm going to miss the ball.
Okay.
Nearly. But
What about movement then? What happens to the action?
just that way, doesn't it?
You almost try to clear it too hard.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So that swing there, based on where the ball is, the divot, and that divot, I think we're going to agree that that's where the sequence of movement, everything kind of flows better. So now when it comes to the shot, exactly the same. Get that, forget that. All you're trying to do is just feel what it is that you're trying to copy.
Slowing that one, I think.
Alright, maybe almost the opposite. You almost maybe made it a little bit too deliberate. But again, just because we've neutralised the shaft line,
Yeah, it's
the
not.
club still managed to get through. So,
It's always one of those good battles.
well, yeah, and I think that's what we've got to look at, no matter, because this is early stages. We're in January. You've maybe got an event on Tuesday, but this is just winter preparation, isn't it? And see by months' time, with a bit of work in it, you'll then get away from thinking.
Yeah.
To,
More just
to,
automatic. Yeah.
back to when you think when you were chipping good. Beautiful. That's a better ball flight. You can even, the balls, as I've seen the ball, floating, lands softer. Does probably the same amount of spin, but what it does is taking less bounces for it to kick in.
Maybe easier to control.
Yeah. Awesome.
I felt good.
Awesome. Yep. Great. Was your contact point the same as your practice swing? Not sure.
That one there was maybe a little bit, a smidgen behind.
I don't know if it was that one or it was just here. But your contact with practice swing was here, your contact with the shot was just there. Now, what it's kind of then saying right now is, without being perfect about it, is that you're getting a chance to hit the shot, get a ball flight, do what you want. Because the last thing we'd want to do, I think, is squeeze out a 58 and then stand behind a bunker, and you've got to play from behind that bunker to that flag, and you're bricking it, because it's not a shot that you're then comfortable with, because not to put the negative side of it, but it's the real stuff is, right, okay, now let's, I'm already hitting it fat, I'm already hitting fat shots and thin shots, this is just, you know, and
we're going to get over that.
anyone with not even half a game would end up coming to the side here and going up. You know, we can't afford to do that. You know, we've got to have the skills and the repertoire to get the various different shots that you can stand up and go, I can do that. So we have to get back to hitting shots a bit more flight, so that then when you are faced with that, you've got more confidence in the skills to do it without thinking too much about what you have to do it. You know how to do it. You always have. But it's getting back to that. So that it's then not a problem. And even if the confidence just isn't quite there, you still have a bit of security and you can actually hit the shot. Good.
Got to go the further way on?
Yeah. Okay, go back to that. The feedback from that practice swing then. Where was the contact? Right, that was better. Where was the first one? Now we're talking, aren't we?
That was good. Yeah.
But then these clubs are trained, aren't they?
Expert hands in it.
Great. Right, where's the contact again?
Too far forward.
Okay. You're starting to figure it out yourself.
Yeah.
You know?
Too deliberate on that one.
Okay. So it wasn't the same as a practice swing.
No, I could feel myself just trying to
Right.
back to the ball faster than instead of just letting it come and body just releasing.
Right. I would still encourage you to feel that your connection, for me, with the ground is still here. Okay, I still think it's a little bit forward.
Okay.
I think there's at times where you have the practice swing that it is too forward, that when it comes to the shot you fall back.
Okay. So maybe almost trying to feel as though I'm actually hitting behind the ball to some extent to get it to not go so far forward.
Potentially.
Yeah.
In terms of the actual club movement, is the circle of it is staying, you're not getting back here and then changing the angle, the path, the truce of the club. Good. Great. Yeah. Now, so would you say that the practice swing and then the actual swing were much closer
I
together?
tried to almost feel that there was actually maybe a little bit more release to it.
Okay.
So then, because I wasn't getting to there, I just
Yeah.
felt as though I was getting this long, which then maybe stopped it going so far forward.
Right.
And I
Good.
almost, the practice swing and the full swing felt the same.
Right. Now, technically, does that feel like there's less body,
Probably,
or it's
yeah.
quieter?
It's quieter, it's not so much there.
It's not so much
It's
all
maybe
body,
just-
less arms.
Yeah,
There's a
letting that
kind of
come through as one. Maybe forcing it too much.
Yeah.
In the body.
Okay. I put that back down to just one thing. Where in your practice swing are you making contact with the ground?
Did they felt they were there? I don't know.
Yeah, no, they were. Did you feel that your practice swing? Oh God, it was all going great. Right.
That could be edited out.
Yeah, or it couldn't. Well done. That was a good recovery.
I don't know.